Hello and welcome to the Road to Rec League podcast. I'm Callum, and I've finally scored a goal. That's right, in today's episode, I'm going to get to talk about how I have finally scored a goal. And it's been in a scrimmage with a goalie in the other end. Very happy with that. It was 4-on-4, so I'm going to count it. It was exhausting. It was a really good session. So we're going to go through the two big hockey sessions I've done over the last few days. Well, just before Christmas. Obviously, I had a nice little break. And then also chat a little bit about the Jets, specifically this last game, and some little bits of things I've picked up on that I think need, I don't know, just reviewing, I guess. So let's start with my hockey. Really good. There were a couple of sessions opened up just before Christmas, 22nd, 23rd, I think. And they were slots previously reserved for like a local junior team. And then they cancelled those sessions. And so the team that I'm registered with and a couple others sort of came together and said, let's have a bit of an open scrimmage. Ice time is ice time. And it was actually a reasonable time of the day. I made it back before midnight on both occasions, considering it's an hour and 45 of driving each way. That was quite good. So had a wonderful time though. Met some lovely people and got to catch up with some familiar faces from other practice sessions as well. Really, really good. And again, like I said at the start, finally scored a goal. And we'll start there. So the first session, it was an hour and there was 10 of us. So we played 4-on-4 constantly rotating, and it's probably the most tired I've ever been. In fact, someone who was there, they've run 9 marathons and they haven't felt that tired before. It was, really, really exhausting. I was very glad that I had a few days off beforehand, so I was able to go in quite fresh and have some legs in me. It was quite something. So proper, it was a 4-on-4, a bit more ice as well. So plenty of space, lots of skating, which was actually really good. Again, it's the kind of thing where, ordinarily, I guess if you're practicing team systems and stuff, 4-on-4, maybe not the thing you want to spend time doing. But if it's working on things like just general skating and conditioning, it was really beneficial. And I was fine probably until the last 15 minutes, where my legs were just cooked at that point, absolutely cooked. My technique in skating drops off drastically when I'm tired, and it's not very good anyway. However, before I ended up hardly being able to walk, there were a couple of really nice plays, and I think throughout the day realised that some of the things I can do, again, I've talked about it before, it's getting my stick in lanes, getting myself in the way of pucks and stuff, and just being in the right kind of places, and picked up some really good feedback on things like that. And it was a committed small group as well, so lots of big efforts from everyone, which was awesome. So the goal then, might as well talk about that, I'm really proud of it actually. It was a proper goal. Basically, I play forward, and we're on the attack. Excuse me, and my skating speed means I'm usually late to the party. And I think that I've talked a lot actually about me finding a position quite frequently where I'll sort of be, because I'm again not quite as fast. I am second in line on the offense, so I'm a second wave, and I find that I've picked up the same spot about 6 feet away from the goal, just to the right hand side of the slot. So I've got most of the goal to look at, but the goalie can obviously see me and all that sort of stuff. So it's not. I mean, it's where I want to be. I think it's where I found the majority of my opportunities, within 6 feet of the net, just posted up on the right hand side. It gives me more options for shooting, because my forehand shot, my wrist is actually getting progressively better. I think I've talked about how dog shit it's been in the past, but it is progressing. So that makes it a viable option. And in the last few episodes, I think I've talked about hitting the post and being robbed, and all of that. It's just a forehand wrister from about 6 feet away from the net. No more than that, maybe a little bit more, but not by much. And it's that kind of shot and that kind of environment, I guess. This time, I received the puck on my forehand, but there is someone basically closing in on my forehand side. So I literally dragged the puck backhand and put it past the goalie, top left-hand corner of the net. I genuinely couldn't quite believe it, and I don't think anyone on the ice could either. It's obviously the first time I've scored on a goalie, and the people that are familiar with me know that I haven't really scored a lot, or at all. They've not seen me score. And so a couple of them were like, whoa, nice goal. And inside, I was, screaming, and I had a big old grin on my face. Really, really happy. I got to carry that. I've been carrying that with me ever since. I finally scored, and the goalie is on a junior contract with one of the Div 3 teams in the UK. So he's an up and comer, and he's likely going to be playing that kind of at least second tier, I guess, as a professional. He's still got plenty of time left to development, and he's a goalie. So I'll keep an eye on how he goes, and if he ends up making it in the big league, I'll always be able to say I scored a backhand goal on this guy top corner. That could be my claim to fame for the rest of my life. I don't know, but it was good, and what it was sort of like not a weight off my shoulders, because I've been really enjoying the progress and working towards it. If sort of in a sense, I'm glad it's taken a bit of time, and it was well earned, because if it had been like a really scrappy, it bounced off my stick and went in and I wasn't really trying or whatever, then, I mean, it's a goal and I'd count it. But by the same token, I won't have had that build up to it. I've been pitching myself up in this spot. I've been finding how to get into a good shooting space for high danger chances. I've been working on getting my shots off, and now I've been rewarded, and it kind of feels like like an earned goal instead of a gifted goal. So I was really pleased with that. Really, really pleased with that, obviously. And I actually managed to get on a 2-on-0 breakaway, and I fumbled the puck as well, because I deferred. I was like, no, it's okay, I'm tired. I passed it off to the other guy. He's like, no, it's all on you. I was like, so he passed it back, and I hadn't really had a plan in mind for how I was going to try and beat the goalie, so ended up just stick handling it and trying to jam it in on the forehand, but missed, basically. Which is a shame. I wish I'd just taken a shot, but actually something only really clicked for my wristers in the second session, and I'll talk a bit about that as well later. But really, really good time. Absolutely exhausted. Drove home, could hardly walk, and yeah, definitely needed a good rest before I got back out on the ice the following day for 2 hours. So the next session was a 2-hour session they cut the ice halfway through, so got a little break in there to just stretch a bit and grab a drink. But very much the same kind of thing, except this time there were 20-something people there, so it was a little bit more bodies on the ice. Played 5-on-5. It's perfect, really. Basically 2 defensive pairs and 2 offensive lines rolling. It wasn't time changed; it was just self changed and stuff like that. It was really good. And when I say 2 defensive pairs, it was 1.5, and then we were rotating as forwards, going in and helping out. And I've never played D until that day for 15 minutes, which I'll get to in a bit. But really, really good sessions, actually. Both of them were. It was effectively a 15-minute warm-up. So it was like a free skate for 15 minutes at the start and then a 45-minute scrim. And it was really nice to have it broken down, because it meant I could get loose, get warm. And I found myself sort of getting into the same kind of routines, I suppose, now warming up. Not like a structured something that I'm doing all the time. And it probably will be helpful at some point to develop a bit of a warm-up routine, because I think it's helpful to have a routine. But I'm doing the same kinds of things. I'm working on basic stick handling, sort of head-up stuff, passing it a few slow ones off the boards back to myself, just receiving a slow pass and stuff like that. Getting a couple of things on the backhand, and just trying to do a couple of tight turns either way with the puck and things like that. So I'm finding that that's the sort of thing I'm doing, and then I'm going to go over to the boards. I'm going to put a few wristers on them and try and get loose. I'll try and a couple of backhands, and then just see if I can lift the backhand or 2. And then, if anyone's around and wants to pass and stuff like that, then I'll jump in and do that. If not, bit of skating, couple of big efforts and quick stops. And that's how I just sort of find my rhythm, I guess. And I think that's been helping. Just sort of get into that space. So we had our first scrim, played the whole thing, playing forward. Probably spent most of my time out on the wing, but we all just sort of picked up where the last person left off. So you do find yourself sort of in different places and different positions, but understanding how to play forward, I guess now I'm starting to really get a feel for where I need to be, and it's making it much easier to flick between different positions and sort of where I need to place myself, and where I think I can go to find the soft parts of the ice, and when I need to close up and stuff like that. So that's good. Nothing outstanding in the first session. Just I guess generally pleased with how I was skating. I was getting involved a bit more. I was able to keep up a little bit more. properly chasing after pucks, putting effort in, and occasionally, it wouldn't work out, and I'd miss out, or I did tumble a couple of times, but for the most part, I was putting myself in the right kind of place. And in terms of passing and keeping my head up and stuff like that, it was all pretty good. I did have one nice play actually where I deked around a couple of players. I was really happy with that. So picked the puck up on the left wing, sort of centre ice, pretty slow. Didn't really carry much speed. Someone was coming towards me to come and pinch that puck, and I basically the same move I think I've talked about before. A little bit of stick handling, quick drag across to the backhand, and then pull it back across to my forehand. And by this point, I'm past that guy. And then the next person did exactly the same thing, and then chipped it in on the backhand and chased after it. Sort of dumped it in and chased after it to try and break up the play. And it worked relatively well. It gave us a bit of ozone time and allowed me to go off and get a change. So, so obviously hands-wise, still really comfortable, which was great. And after that initial session, went off, grabbed a drink, did a bit of stretching back in the locker room. And one of the sort of regular veteran guys who's been playing a long while is pretty good actually. Sort of sat down opposite me and we started having a bit of a chat generally, and it was very complimentary actually in some ways. He was like, "Yeah, you've got some good hands there, like clearly quite capable with that." I think I made the usual self-depreciating joke around how I just need my legs to catch up, which is extremely true. But I did sort of reflect actually. I'm like, okay, well I started skating properly in August in the full gear, so I didn't really do any skating before that, 10 hours total. So, in terms of proper intense skating, I've sort of hit almost 50 some hours now. So pretty pleased with that. And he was just like, yeah, good hands. What else how long you been doing this? What else you working on? You find yourself in the right kinds of places, things like that. It was really good. Gave me a bit of advice to go grab some of these like Swedish stick handling balls. So I've actually had some arrive this morning, had a little bit of a play, realised I've got quite a sore arm because I slept on it funny. So probably won't do too much work on that, but also going to find a couple of drills. And if I can just do 5-10 minutes a day or something similar like that, then even my hands, keep pushing your strengths as well. I think to leverage the things you're good at is important, as well as working on weaknesses. So that was some good feedback to get. But again, the chap agreed with me around the skating. It'll come in time. Just got to keep working on it. Anyway, so they cut the ice, head back out for the second hour, and that chap. So I do my little warm up routine, same sort of stuff. And that chap in the locker room was sort of like, okay, well, he called for a pass basically. So I pinged a pass over to him. We ended up passing back and forth, and I think I wouldn't say he was evaluating me but it was that kind of thing. I was like, where's this person at in their progression? What tips can I offer? How are they getting on? What things do they need to work on? And it was really, really nice actually to have that kind of time, one-to-one with someone who's quite capable, who was showing an interest. I mean, in the first warm-up, he talked about my skating as well. He was just like, get a bit lower and you'll find it's a bit easier. And anyway, so in the 15-minute warm-up before the second scrim, we're passing it, and then he sources a pass, and then I source one back, and that caught him off guard a bit because I don't think it's a beginner skill, and I'm very much a beginner, but to have, to be able to source a pass and have that in my locker is nice. So sourced a pass back and forth a bit, and then he goes, "What's your shot like?" And my standard response for that is, "It's a bit shit, but we'll give it a go." So pitch up and just bang a few shots against the boards. And really, I was finding that the actual snap of the wrist, like the top hand, is starting to come to me now. I'm starting to get a feel for how that works with the lower hand as well. And I feel like my wrist shots are starting to they've got a bit more zip on them, I'll say that much. They're not like a wet pass all the time. I can elevate the puck a bit more, which is good. I'm starting to get that kind of slightly whippier kind of motion going. And so did a few of those, and he was like, that's really good. The reason you're elevating that puck is because you're not following through over the top, so to speak. Because I've historically really struggled with elevating the puck, so I sort of almost opened the blade. Now I've got the whip, I guess, with the top hand a bit better. I can close off the blade and still elevate the puck. So we did a few more of those, worked on that, and he was like, "This is really coming together. That's good." And I'm fine in a drill situation. I still haven't really ripped a shot off properly forehand. I mean, I've got some nice half decent ones off, but I haven't ripped one from the hash marks or something. And actually had a threatening shot in a game situation, but it's nice to be able to maybe pull some of these out on drills now. Fingers crossed. So that was really good. Really happy with that. Need to keep working on that and keep drilling that in. And then we went on to slap shots, which I've swung and missed at one. And basically he's like, try a slap shot. I swung and missed at the puck. Had a couple more goes. was able to connect a few times, but not any elevation, no speed, not very threatening. And he basically just said, "You're treating it like a golf swing. Just try and find a way to, come down on it a bit more and not be so, say, rotatey of the hips. I guess in a sense, like I am basically teeing off, because in my head that's kind of the motion to hit an object at my feet. In that kind of environment, if I'm going to lift something up above my head, but clearly bit of work to do there. But actually, at my level, I guess, if I can find a way to be threatening without having to have a slap shot in my locker, then I'm fine with that too. Even if my wrist is just, at the moment, that is more threatening than my slap shot, so I'd probably rely on that. But so that was really good. And then into the second scrim we went. So same sort of thing, really. Just played a good positional game, got myself in the right environments and areas. Had some really nice sort of like plays where a chap, the same guy actually skated across. He was playing more down the middle. I was playing on the right wing. He skated across. I cut back into the centre. He gave me a couple of drop passes. The first one I couldn't get a very good shot off. Goalie made a pad save. Second one, people closed in on me a bit too quickly and I wasn't able to do much. And I got absolutely chirped for it by that guy. Both times. He's like, "Come on, man. Perfect drop pass. What are you doing?" At which point on the first one, I think I said I shot for a rebound. The second one, I just got closed down. I couldn't do anything about that one. But it was really nice. Bit of, getting in the right space, playing the puck well, making nice passes, passing it back to defensemen, things like that. I think just getting a real feel for the game. That maybe it's taking time to develop. But when you watch as much hockey as I've watched in such a short period of time, gotta remember, I've only really been following hockey for 2.5 years. There or thereabouts. So maybe just over that now. Probably coming up for 3 in March, I guess. But that's what I've been experiencing, shall we say? So I've consumed a lot. So I think the thinking the game bit is okay. Having my mind think at the speed it needs to in the moment of a game is different. But once I have the opportunity to think, I'm able to. And actually, I was able to look up a bit more and pre-scan a little bit more and things like that. So a bit of looking over both shoulders when I'm going to pick up a puck off the boards, which whereas before I was so focused on the puck that I'd get the puck, sort of be like, I'll just rim it around the boards because I was not really, or I'll bank a pass off, just try and clear the zone because that's at least not a shit play, even if it's not a good play. Whereas now I'm sort of taking a bit more time, banking a pass to someone rather than just blindly. And I think that's that part of my game starting to come now, that ability just to think a bit more, which is great. Again, the legs still really are my weak point, and they probably will be for a little while. I've got to work hard. I've been skating 5 months. Got to keep putting the effort in. I'd like to actually get some proper skating lessons in the new year. Maybe not January, but maybe February time or something. Put some time and effort into learning how to skate properly. Work on some techniques and stuff, as well as just getting time on the ice with a stick and a puck. Because I do think that will help elevate bits of my game, which will be really beneficial. So definitely something on the horizon. But yeah, really, really pleased generally. And then the last 15 minutes of that scrim, I was playing right D. So never had to do that before. That was something new. I got partnered up with a left-hand defenseman who had played D for like a couple of years. They were really comfortable and basically just shared a couple of things straight off the rip. He said, there's just 2 things you got to think about, and that's offensive positioning, which I kind of knew anyway. If the left-hand side's pinching, cover off the centre of the ice. And equally, if I pinched, he'll cover the middle. And then also just deny the centre of the ice. Basically, box them out, take them to the edges. And that's the style of play that has made the Winnipeg Jets a competitive hockey team for 2 years. Boxing them out, take them to the edges, don't give them big opportunities in the slot. And basically, that's what we did for 15 minutes and didn't concede. I would say probably played half of those 15, so probably like 6-7 minutes of time on ice, because we only had 2 defensive pairs. But no goals against, and lots of good opportunities to do the things. Now I can't skate backwards particularly well. I think I've made that quite apparent. And so I was having to sort of defend facing forwards most of the time, if that makes sense. Sort of almost like facing my own net when tracking back and things like that. But on every occasion was making sure that I was taking away the options of the centre of the ice, which was good. I had a couple of really nice plays like that. Basically, took one of the good skaters out to the perimeter, didn't allow him in. He then pinged it around the back of the board to someone else. I then cut back into the centre of the ice, took a stick off took a stick away from someone in the middle of the ice, take the puck off them and have a breakout pass. At which point the chap next to me says, that was a fucking good shift, and I was really pleased with that. And obviously we then, start to move forward on the offensive, pull off a change. Like, it was really good. It just felt quite comfortable. And again, that kind of mentality of, okay, well, I got to do my job well. And the thing I wanted to take away from it more than anything really was learning how to play on the other side of the puck and continue that learning and progression. I talk about being able to get myself in lanes, and I've got a decent reach, so I can get my stick in the way and all that sort of stuff. And I'm quite happy holding it one-handed, so with the reach plus the one-handed stick and a fairly firm stick, it's I can break up passes and stuff, and I'm really, really proud of that. And to be able to use that more frequently was good also. I've talked a lot about aspirationally wanting to be like a defensively responsible center, or I want PK time. I'd love that. That would be, for me, that would mean more almost than being on a power play, because it's that you're being trusted to be good enough to play shorthanded. You're being trusted to take away another team's opportunity of scoring in a when the deck is stacked against you kind of thing. I think that's really cool. So I'd love to earn that, I suppose. And that might take quite some time, obviously, but that's the aspiration. So playing right-hand D and having to box players out, and taking sticks away, taking shooting lanes away, stuff like that, playing on the defensive side of the puck. Really enjoyed that, actually. Really, really enjoyed that. So might actually end up trying to do a little bit more of that here and there if we're short on staff at the back end, so to speak. Just on scrims and stuff. Keep learning that part of the game. Keep testing myself. So yeah, really good couple of days. I've got a couple more days coming up now, actually, as well. So good to keep it rolling. I think it works out by the end of the year I'll have done 60 hours of ice skating this year, 10 hours of like public skates, I guess, or maybe like 12 of that, and the rest in like stick and pucks and scrims and team practices and skating lesson and stuff like that. So really pleased with 60 hours. It works out pretty much to be about 10, 11 hours a month for the months I've been really working on it. I think it was 10 hours a month for the months I've really worked on it. In December, it will have been 15 hours, which I'm really pleased with. I do really want to keep up the 10 plus hours a month if I can, because I think it's just going to really help with my progression. So the other thing I wanted to touch on then, Jets hockey. There's only a couple of quick points, and we'll stick with the structure. I want to keep this a fairly short episode anyway. So my 3 bullet points. Number 1, what is the second line? It feels like it has no purpose at the moment, aside from be on the ice, keep other people rested. It doesn't really have an identity. It doesn't really have a spark. Nemesnikov, Perfetti, Iafalo, there's not a lot of offensive punch there. Perfetti's gone missing. No, Ehlers obviously is hurting the team, I think, more than they would have anticipated. I'm sure they would have expected a bit of a drop-off. I'm sure they were hoping that Taves and Nyquist could fill that gap. But, at the end of the day, they haven't. And what we're left with is this sort of nothing line that doesn't really produce. It's okay defensively. So I think if I were going to be critical, that would be something I would like to see the team shake up. An injection of young speed would be helpful, I think, just to give them something. At the end of the day, I'll get onto this. I suppose my next point, nice little segue. The Jets are in the bottom 2 teams, tied on points, second to last on points percentage, I believe. So at that point, you're sort of thinking, okay, well, I'm not sure this season's our season. It'd be really nice to have a good reality check in mid-Jan. And if by the Olympic break they haven't figured out that they're a selling team at the trade deadline, I don't know what's going to tell them. But I think it's time to start playing the youth, basically. Let's think about where we are and how we might be able to enhance a couple of these lines' identities, even if that might necessarily or might not necessarily help the overall skill level of the line, so to speak. At least if you go, right, the second line is a scoring line. Okay, well then let's bring in a Lambert who's got an injection of pace or something different. It doesn't even have to be a Brad Lambert, just anything different than what we're doing today. Get some youngsters in there, give them a 20-game run in the NHL. Like meaningful time, not a 5-game, thanks, back to the A with you now. Give them a good go. I think that's a really important opportunity. Sam Watson should be playing heavy NHL minutes for the rest of the season. Put DeMello into the third pair, stick him up there with Morrissey like we've seen, or switch him around, give them both an opportunity. I don't mind. But Sam Watson should be playing more minutes. There's some real opportunities there. We've talked a little bit about this in the past, but the more time goes on, the more I'm starting to realise that it's time to kind of accept that this season's a bit of a write-off. 17 points behind Minnesota, or 18 now, I think. And they are the third team in our division. They're also the third team in the league, but at the end of the day, it's not a 1 through 16 for qualification. It's a 1 through 8. But sorry, it's not a 1 through 8. It's a 1 through 4. Or the stupid divisional with wildcards. Anyway, it's time to kind of wake up and smell the coffee a little bit, I think. And that's fine. And I really enjoyed watching the Minnesota game. Like, that top line was buzzing. And being a Velarde fan, seeing him influencing the game in the way he did was good. So I enjoyed watching the game. I think there was a really good effort. We got a point out of it, and that's not nothing. And it could have been more, but for a bit of a silly mistake towards the end. But at the end of the day, I think the gap to the playoffs is too big. So it's probably time just to consolidate, bring in some young guys, give them exposure, waive a couple guys, and really think about what you want this team to look like next year. Because I'm thinking the fact that Cole Koepke's being sat is mental to me. He's got pace, energy. Him and Barron on a fourth line is a really solid pair of guys. We've talked about like lines and pairs in the past, but having a pair of like Barron and Koepke and another is a really nice way of having an energy fourth line. But we don't have that. So instead, we're choosing Pearson and Nyquist and slower players, ultimately. So I'm really intrigued to see what they'll do in January and March, I guess, because February is pretty much an Olympic write-off, I suppose. Should be interesting. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was, I guess, we'll all be spending a bit more time as Jets fans watching the World Juniors this year. Because there's still some undrafted talent in there. There's some potential first-round picks. And with the Jets, at this rate, picking top 5, I imagine. It's time to start looking at that talent pool and thinking about what we need, who's going to take shape in, who could be playing meaningful games in the next 18 months. Not just we can nurture and develop this player for 3 years and then they're going to be a third-line player or a second-pair defenseman. It's like, actually, who can we grab that's going to be a meaningful piece of the puzzle in 18 months' time? And actually, what do we want this next 5 years to look like as well, if we're going to get a bit more strategic about it? But, good opportunity. Watch the World Juniors. Maybe we can get a top 5 and a bottom 5 first-round pick. If we can ship someone off for a first. I'm not sure we've really got that in the arsenal, but we can try. We can try. And actually, it was fun watching a couple of World Junior games yesterday. The Germany-Slovakia one and the Canada-Latvia one. Both really good games to watch. The pace of play is great. Also grabbed 2/3 of the PWHL game. It was Boston and someone else, and I can't remember off the top of my head, which is frustrating because I was watching it. It's just not coming to mind because I didn't write it down in my notes. But quite enjoyed watching that too. So plenty of hockey on TV at the minute. Plenty of time on the ice. And hopefully that bodes well for the conclusion of 2025 and on to 2026. And that's going to probably be the theme of next episode. Bit of a review of the year and a look ahead, set some goals, and see how we go. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks ever so much for listening. Obviously, like, subscribe, comment, etc. It's really helpful. It's nice to be able to engage where I can, and also, obviously, hear from others. So, without further ado, I'll say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. And until next time, bye for now.